spread a little aloha around the world. At breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man, and welcome back, everybody. Breakfast with Bob, our Not Quite Kona edition. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Master Spas. As fuels go longer, Hoka Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, DeBoer Wetsuits, Quintana Roo, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest from the UK, about to head over to Milwaukee for the PTO US Open, Mr. Tom Bishop joins us. Tom, how you doing?
Hey Bob, yeah, good, thank you. That was a cool intro. First
Oh,
experience of that's my first experience I've had of it. Anyway,
your first Poncho Man.
it is, yeah, and hopefully not the last.
Hopefully not. Hopefully next year in Kona, we'll have you there. That would be really, really fun.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm planning on a few long distance events coming up, so hopefully I can get a qualification potentially. We'll see.
So you were telling me before we started that you were doing a little heat training, getting ready for coming to the States. Now, will you be doing Milwaukee and Singapore?
Currently, I'm on the roll down list for Singapore, so there's a chance, but I'm kind of 50-50 at the moment. We'll just see if I get a shot or not.
Okay, but Milwaukee for sure.
Definitely Milwaukee, yeah, and that's why I've been doing the heat prep, just because it looks like it's been pretty hot over in the US, and I just want to make sure that I'm ready enough to kind of get everything out I can, and I don't want the heat to really affect my performance in any way.
I remember last year we were chatting in Daytona, and we were talking about that you had gone the transition from Olympic format to the longer distance race, and you had done, I think it was Challenge Wales, and you learned a valuable lesson there. you ended up with a few blisters, huh?
Yeah, I've definitely learned from that, and so far I've not really had any blisters, so fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. But yeah, that was my first middle distance race, and yeah, massive learning curve. And I went back to Challenge Wales earlier this year, just like about 6 weeks ago, and I ended up winning. So yeah,
Yep.
I definitely learned from last year for sure.
You know, it's so funny because you've been doing this sport a long time. I was looking back in 2008, 16 years old, you win the ETO Junior European Cup. So you've been doing the sport a long time. And then when you transition to, you feel like you know it all. And then when you come into longer distance, it's like you're starting all over again, right?
Oh, for sure. There's so many things that I didn't realize what you had to do. And even like sock selection is one of them. And like transitions are a different kettle of fish. Like you have to like obviously you have bags and stuff for quite a lot of these races. And that's something I had to get my head around. Just try and be as fast as you can still, but in a different way. So I had to do a lot of like preparing and like visualization just to make sure I kind of got those bits right in these middle distance races.
So when you got into the sport, how old were you when you first got into triathlon?
Oh, I definitely was under 10. I remember there's a picture at home in my parents' house of me and my twin brother doing a triathlon, and we must have been like 7 or something. But that was just like a really short little fun thing. And yeah, since then I've kind of just been doing it my whole life really. So yeah, and I don't plan stopping anytime soon. Well, hopefully
No.
not. But yeah, so it's yeah, 20 plus years of triathlon really.
And growing up in the UK. Now, did you grow up in Leeds?
No, I my hometown's Derby, which is just in the Midlands, about 70 miles away from Leeds. I moved to Leeds for university and to join the triathlon squad there.
And so were you training with the Brownlees?
Yeah, I joined the squad in 2009, and yeah, I trained with those guys for quite a while. At the moment in Leeds, I've kind of got my own squad that I kind of join in with, and they've got their own separate squad. But yeah, I learn a lot from those guys, definitely.
Could you tell? It's interesting because once they announced that London was going to be the Olympic venue in 2012, it seemed like every resource went into, okay, we're going to be great in a number of sports, and triathlon is going to be one of them.
Yeah, they absolutely nailed triathlon, didn't they? And I think cycling was another big one, and like athletics, they had a few stars. So yeah, the Olympics was a huge moment in sport for the UK at that time.
Now, in 2008, Alistair goes to his first Olympics in Beijing and not intimidated by the moment, going off the front. Did that surprise you? Because this is a guy that you knew. It sort of surprised you that, okay, this guy's not intimidated by the moment?
Oh, definitely not. Knowing Alistair, he just rises to the occasion no matter what. And it's a shame, like, he's not gonna be in Milwaukee. I think he said he's not racing at the moment, so it would have been good to have him there because he was a massive factor in the European Open earlier this year. But the field is still really stacked, so I'm sure it's going to be a tough battle nonetheless.
So this year, you've had a really good year. You're second in Clash Miami, and you win Puerto Varas, 12th in the European Open. And people look at something like that and go, 12th in the European Open. They don't quite realize the depth of the fields that you have in the US Open, Asian Open, European Open. You finish top 20 in those races. That's like winning most races.
Oh yeah, and if you look at kind of the way the PTO points work now, like that was my biggest scoring PTO points race. So yeah, like these fields, they've got the best athletes in the world, and like I was really happy with 12th, because I think in Dallas I might have been 30th or something. So
Yes,
it's a big improvement from my last PTO Open race. So that was a pleasure, and I was able to kind of be near the front of the race for quite a while as well. Obviously, that front group got away in the end, but I felt like I was kind of racing well, and again, still a few things to learn. Still getting better throughout the year, so hopefully I can hang on a little bit longer in Milwaukee.
When I look back at your career, obviously, number one thing was Olympics, 2012, 2016, 2020. And the hard part about that is it doesn't give you a lot of options. You sort of have to, other people control your destiny to a certain degree in terms of the governing bodies. How hard was that? Because I think you went to the games. Did you go to games in both 12 and 16 and didn't race?
No, I was reserved for both of those. Like I think I was second reserve or something for London or something. But obviously, like I was in the UK, so if
Yes.
if it happened that they needed a second reserve, then I was obviously not too far away. And then Rio, again, I was on call in case I needed to be flown out again. But like no, like I guess fortunately I didn't end up going because it does take a lot of time out of yourself. Like the guys who went to Japan, it was a long time out of their seasons just to kind of be there and kind of support the team. But obviously, it's a really noble thing to go and do. But yeah, being a reserves, like it's very bittersweet, isn't it? And when you're there at the race or at the races watching, knowing that you wish you could be there, it's probably pretty mentally tough. So, but yeah, that was kind of mentally tough. Was probably what I describe as the whole Olympic experience for me. Like I've been so close quite a few times, and after Tokyo, I was kind of over it by that point. Like the dream had vanished for me, and I thought another there's another direction I can take my career in, and that's like middle and long distance. And I was 31 at the time last year when I really decided to make the switch over to that. And like obviously you've got some really young fast guys coming through, and I don't have that kind of youth anymore compared to like the young 20 something guys. So I thought I'd better make the switch now and just go all in on it.
Well, and the learnings from going with the longer distance, I just think there's a different attitude when you're at the race. It's so intense when you can't really be buddies with the guys you're racing with because a lot of the strategy with the draft legal. But when I just feel that there's a little mellower, you can chat with somebody before the race because it's really you against you. You have more control over your own destiny when you're doing these races. Do you find that?
Oh, 100% agree. And I go back to Challenge Wales last year, my first one, and I was racing with a mate actually at the time. He was my old housemate, and he said to me after the race, he's like, "You were really weird on the start line. Like you didn't talk to anyone." And I was like, "Yeah, that's just what it's like in short course racing. Like I was just in the zone." Whereas now I'm way more relaxed. Like it is nice to chat to people, just be relaxed on the start line, because I think if you're like super pumped up and over motivated, like you can go out too hard.
Yeah.
Like and you don't want to do that at the start of a 4-hour race because you can kind of cook yourself early on, and it takes a long time to recover from those sort of efforts. So I think being controlled and relaxed at the start is definitely definitely something that I've kind of learned to be over the past year.
When I look at the highlights from your, the ITU years, that 2008, 16 years old, you win the ETO Junior European Cup. 2010, you get the silver in the grand final in Budapest by 2 seconds. And then 2017, second Abu Dhabi, but Javier Gomez, but you beat Vincent Louis, you beat Mario Mola. Those are pretty cool highlights to have when you look back.
Oh yeah, that is the highlight of my short course career, getting a medal at the World Series. Like, I was really happy my whole season. I think I finished ranked 7th in the world that year and had a couple of top 5s as well, I think. So yeah, that was sweet. Everything was just clicking. Like, the training was good. It was enjoyable. And I didn't really feel too much pressure because I was kind of hitting the best shape I'd been in, and everyone was like happy and supportive around me. So yeah, when things are going well, it's kind of easy. So yeah, that was a really good year.
When the world got shut down for COVID, and some people, it was, hey, I got an extra year to get ready for the Olympics. It was great. For other people, it was like, oh man, I'm ready now. Losing this year is really going to be a pain for me. Which were you?
I was kind of the latter. Like, I was kind of ready to go.
Yeah.
I had a plan set up in place, and then obviously, by the end of that year, when I realized the racing wasn't really going to happen, I decided to take a bit of a longer break, because it was the first like extended break from sport I'd had in nearly 20 years. So I took like 2 months of like very little training, just like what I wanted to do. We went on a bit of a camping trip around Europe and stuff. So in the end, it was kind of a really nice experience. But obviously, the plan at the start of the year was completely opposite, and then going into 2021 with how the qualification worked, it was so crammed. Like, we had to do 4 races in 4 weekends across
The world.
like the continents and things. So it was it was something. And I might have mentioned to it earlier, like, I like to be relaxed, and that's when I was going at my best, like when I was kind of in control. And that was something that I felt like got out of control for me, and my performance dropped throughout those races. So yeah, it didn't really work out for that qualification, unfortunately. But it was definitely something I learned from, and I've taken into this kind of middle distance career, just to kind of race when you know you're ready and be confident with that.
So you mentioned that when we were showing the Poncho Man, that down the line we're talking about potentially jumping into a full. And when you have one chosen?
So yeah, obviously with Singapore being uncertain, I decided to enter Challenge Almere, which is also the European long distance champs, which is in September.
Yeah.
So I actually only entered it earlier this week because it was something that I was holding out for Singapore, and I didn't want to kind of leave it till last minute. And I'd rather have a secondary plan just in case
Right.
the Singapore doesn't happen. So yeah, that will give me, after Milwaukee, about 5 weeks to prepare for. So it's something I'm a bit nervous about, because I still feel like middle distance is a really long way. So to double that, it's going to be a really interesting day out for sure. But I like the endurance. Like, it's my favorite part of training. So to go back, or to come back from the US and just get stuck into some long distance prep will be quite fascinating, really.
When you were trying to get to Tokyo, trying to get to with all that racing, it just seemed like it had become a job, right? We know it's a job, but you got to love it. And sometimes the love goes out of it when you're just, I got to get points. I got to get points. I got to get to this. I got to get to Mexico. I got to go here. I got to go there. It's like, it becomes out of your control, and doesn't become fun anymore.
Yeah, you're right there. It did feel like that. And points, I hate the word points, because it's just people in our sport, especially in the short course, they're constantly going on about points, and it becomes really stressful when you're just worrying about positions here and there, and it takes away the actual racing when you're just worrying about how many points you're going to get at the end of the race, rather than, I want to go to this race and actually race well, and whatever that is, should get me good points. If I race well, I'll get good points rather than worrying I have to go and score 200 points here or 400 points there or something. And yeah, like it definitely felt like a job towards the back end of that short course career. And now I'm back kind of living the life that it obviously, like, triathlon's a career, but it's a dream at the same time. So yeah, I feel like I'm back in that sort of headspace now, just like going from races, looking forward to them, getting excited, visiting new destinations. So yeah, it's way more fun at the moment.
So in Milwaukee, you've got Christian Blumenfeld, Magnus Ditlev, Jan Frodeno. It's sort of like a little bit of a who's who. But every weekend you were doing that. When you race an ITU, there's Alistair Brownlee, there's Johnny Brownlee. There, did you race Jan during those years? And
I don't think I did. No, yeah, Jan. I think the first time I raced Jan was in Ibiza earlier this year, which was really cool. But yeah, like I look at these guys on the start list, and obviously they're fantastic athletes and they're
yes,
like incredibly strong, but I'm not necessarily daunted by them really, because obviously I've grown up racing people like Alistair, Gomez, Mario, and all these really top guys, and it's just it's just a slightly different sport, and I just have to go and kind of deal with it in my own way, and just make sure I can get the best out of myself. So yeah, it just makes it exciting when you see these guys on the start line, and obviously I've followed the sport for so long, and you see these amazing results, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to be racing these guys soon, and it's going to be quite exciting. I want to see what I can do when I'm competing against them.
So how did it change the perception of triathlon in the UK when you guys get in 2012, a gold and a bronze with Johnny and Alistair? Obviously the crowds are huge. I've talked to Alistair and Johnny both about, oh my God, we better not F this up. Everybody here is expecting us to medal. And the fact that they did medal, how did that change? Did it change things in terms of more awareness for you guys, more dollars?
Yeah, well, I guess just start with first. They've dealt with some pressure that I think I'll never have to deal with. So fair play to them.
Ever.
That
Nobody
was
will.
like
Yeah.
that performance in 2012 was incredible. I remember watching it, and it was special, definitely. But yeah, it definitely helped the sport grow. Loads more followers, fans, and you look at the World Series that happened in Leeds over the past few years, and the amount of fans that they still drag up to watch these races in the UK. It's great. So yeah, it's helped with everything, like more sponsorship opportunities, like better funding and things. So yeah, it's just been overwhelmingly positive since 2012, I think.
How have you had to change your training from short course to what you're doing now?
It's not changed a huge amount. I think the biggest change I've made over the past few years is I've probably increased my riding to like 18 to 20 hours a week from what was probably normally like 12 to 14. So especially after Dallas last year, I realized how strong everyone was on the bike, and I thought, if I need to kind of make any progress in this career, I need to get stronger on the bike. So since October last year, I've really put a lot of focus on the bike, and we saw in Daytona, like I managed to kind of ride off the front and get a bit of a gap. So that was my strategy. And then it worked again in Miami earlier this year, getting about 2-minute leads off the bike. So yeah, all that work's kind of paying off. And obviously, like with Ibiza and Milwaukee that's coming up, I'm going to be riding against the strongest guys in the world in triathlon. So yeah, it's something I definitely want to keep improving, because like obviously you've got someone like Magnus who's incredible. He's the strongest rider in our sport, I'd say, at the moment, and it'd be interesting to see again how I ride compared to him, and how much of a deficit or kind of how far behind I am still in what I need to do to improve it again over the next few years. But yeah, it yeah, it's all learning still for me. Like, and again, when I go into long distance stuff, it's a different sport again. So that'll be an interesting experience in September.
Yeah. So basically in the last couple of years, you've doubled what you were doing before, and then you're going to go double again.
Nah, not quite that. Well, I don't know. My coach definitely wouldn't let me. I'd be all keen for that, but nah, it would be. I think it'd just be spending just more time on the TT bars, just in that position, because
Yep.
obviously riding for 4.5 hours hard in the TT position is something that is a real challenge. So, and then being able to run a marathon off it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready yet, but we'll find out.
So the first time you were on the Daytona Speedway, 2022, you're doing that race and you're in that TT position forever. How did you
Yeah.
feel getting off the bike and trying to run?
I actually felt okay, to be honest. Like I
Wow.
had prepared. I don't know. I think I prepared quite well, but I actually got off and felt quite good. By the end of the run, my hip was getting a bit tight on the left side, but I'm putting that more down to just running round and round in circles rather
Yeah.
than being in the TT position the whole time. But yeah, like Miami was similar. Like you're in that position for such a long time, and I seemed to cope with it okay. So maybe an extra couple of hours wouldn't be too much of a struggle. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm yet to do it.
So who caught you in Miami? Was that Jason West?
Yeah, he was absolutely flying. Like
Oh,
we've seen how well he's been running this year. Yeah, he's insane at the moment.
it's funny. I was talking to David McNamee yesterday, and he goes, "That guy passed me like I was standing still. I used to think I was a good runner, and he's running similar." He says, right now, I think he's almost at an Alex Yee type of level."
I think the same. I think if he was to have a crack at short course, he would be kind of right up there competitive, assuming that he'll be in like the main group of the race. But obviously he's chosen to stick with middle distance, and obviously he's shown with his results that he's been really successful. So yeah, he's going to be a guy definitely charging through the field next weekend.
So when did he catch you in Daytona?
I think it was with
Miami.
like
I'm sorry, Miami. Yeah.
Miami. Yeah, I think it was with like a lap and a half to go. So maybe
Hmm.
what 3 or 4K or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. So yeah, but yeah, then he just went by, and I was like, I can't go with this. I'm just gonna try and kind of hold on for second instead. Which was that was a success for me anyway. I went into that race just wanting to score some more right points, and I came away with second, so I was absolutely delighted.
Love it. And during your ITU career, there really weren't many events in the US. So I'm guessing you haven't raced that often in the US.
No, I don't think I had raced in the US until I actually did middle distance.
Yeah.
So I've raced in Canada a few times in Mexico, but not the US. So yeah, I've been to racing Daytona and Miami now, and obviously back from Milwaukee. So yeah, I've been going all right in the US since I've been racing in the past couple of races. So I'm hoping it's going to continue like that.
That's very cool. And it's funny because when you see somebody, you're only 32, but you've been racing and been doing this stuff for, like you said, over 20 years. Yeah, it's pretty amazing that you still love it. You still love what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Like I wouldn't be doing the sport if I didn't enjoy it. And obviously there's always tough moments in careers, but I've always felt like this is what I want to do. And I still feel like I've got a bit of time left, and yeah, I just want to see how far I can go and push myself. And as soon as I stop enjoying it and feel like I want it's something different to challenge myself with, I'll kind of step away from the sport. But I don't anticipate that anytime soon.
When you look back at your career, is there one race that sticks out as the most important race? It told you that you could be great at the sport, or it reaffirmed that, hey, this was the right choice?
I'd say there's two races,
Yeah.
and one was Abu Dhabi, which we spoke about earlier. That was the one where I thought, wow, I can be one of the best in the world when I'm on my day. And then the second one actually was Daytona last year, because I'd kind of retired from the short course racing. I was at a point where I wanted to try this middle and long distance career, but I didn't know. Like I'd raced a bit and I'd had some all right results. I think I'd podiumed in Mallorca earlier that year. But
Yeah.
obviously, like you mentioned earlier, like the standard of the PTO compared to just a normal race, like you can podium at one and then come quite far back in the PTO. And I'm doing this career to try and be as one of the best in the world if I can be at some point. So I went to Daytona and it was like, this for me is something that I really want to kind of prove to myself that I can be competitive. And the way I raced there, it kind of gave me the confidence again. And then that went on into Miami, and that just reaffirmed that I did make the right decision in trying to move into the middle and long distance stuff. And it's kind of just gone pretty well all this year. Obviously, I've still got aims that I want to kind of hit this year and in the next few years, but it's on the right track. So Yeah, I'd say that those are the two races that kind of really kind of meant something to me, really.
Love it. Well, I hope Milwaukee becomes even more important. You go down there and you beat a field like that, and there's really no reason you can't on the right day.
Oh,
You can beat anybody.
I'd love it if that happened. I just want to go there and be solid, just kind of just do a race that I'm happy with, and and like be consistent at all three. Like running's dropped off a bit over the past few years, and I've worked on that over the past couple of months. So hopefully I can kind of come off the bike with or near the front, and then hold on for a few higher spots than I did in Ibiza.
Love it. Hey, Thomas, thank you so much for taking time. Look forward to hopefully seeing you at one of these races down the line.
Thanks so much, Bob. Yeah, hopefully see you in Kona in a few years.
Yeah, next October, a year from October. I think that would be awesome.
I'll give it my best shot, definitely.
Tom Bishop has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob, our Not Quite Kona edition. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. See ya.